Hey all, Heretic here. Today in the Battlegrounds, we're going to be talking about Naga. We're going to be talking about spell casting Naga. And I know all Naga cast spells, but in this particular build, we're going to be casting a lot of spells. And we're going to need to find a lot of Naga and some very specific Naga to make it work. So with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, now what minions are we looking for if we're going to be playing this build? And well, really we're going to start really late in the game with this because this build really does require some very high tier minions. First, Sundered Matriarch, I would say, is probably the most important minion because it really does set the tone for this build. Basically, you just have to have a bunch of spellcraft or tavern spells that you can cast to get value off this minion. Even if you only have a couple, if you get this early enough, that 2 health it's giving to all of your minions per spell makes a really big difference and really bump up your board survivability and give you some big value. So you're going to be looking for Sundered Matriarch, then followed by the Wraithscale Rogue. Now, the reason you're looking for Wraithscale Rogue is simple. Well, you have Matriarch, who's going to be buffing all of your minions' health every time you cast a spell, regardless of what it is. Well, then, conversely, Wraithscale is, after a friendly Naga gains health, give it that much attack. So if you're giving to your board 10, 20 health a turn just from spells, he's then giving 10, 20 attack a turn. So regardless of what you're looking for, you want to cast as many spells as possible once you have these 2 minions, and basically to bump up the health of those spells as much as possible. That way, the Wraithscale Rogue will then give attack to balance it out. You really can get really massive really fast. And I know they're both tier 6 minions, so this is not a build early in the game, or even really midway through the game, you're going to be saying, I'm playing. You might look at it and go, ooh, I have like 3 or 4 different spellcraft generators. I'm thinking that would be really fun if I could find these minions. But just remember, you're not committing to this build until you at least have the Matriarch, and then you're going to start looking for the Wraithscale. That's only if you have a bunch of ways to cast spells. If you can only cast 1 spell a turn and you find a Matriarch, unless you can find those spells fast, you're setting yourself up to take a lot of damage without much payoff. So if you have a lot of spell casting, yes, you could start looking for the Rogue. You could say, I am definitely going to be going for this build, but keep your eyes open until you have both pieces. Try to be fluid, try to find something that works. So what are the other minions we're looking for in this build to make it work? And right off the bat, I'm starting with Coil Scar Sapper. You probably already have this on your board. And when you have this with the Matriarch, the fact that it's giving you 2 spellcraft every single turn already makes it better than the average spellcraft generating minion. It's giving you 2. Regardless of if you've tripled it or if you maybe have a Titus on your board, although I really wouldn't. You could in the early game while you're trying to figure things out, but later you definitely don't want that. After that, you're going to be looking for Tranquil Meditative. You're already casting a lot of spells. Some of them are going to be tavern spells. This is going to buff the health of all of those spells. And hey, remember, the Rogue wants you to put health on those minions, so he'll then give attack. So buffing up those spells' health makes a big difference. Firescale Hoarder can be a really good fit on this board. It's going to give you a shiny ring. Well, once again, if the Meditative is over there buffing the health of these spells, he is now going to be giving you a continuous flow of these just never-ending buffs that will be health and attack. Brand's Bronzebeard can also be a great fit on this board. There are a lot of Battlecry minions that are going to give you spells and other minions discoveries, which will give you more value from the brand, so you definitely like him on this board. If you can find space, it does start to get a little tough to fit things on the board. Corrupted Myrmidon is a phenomenal target on this board, because if you put this on there and you are sticking tons of health on your minions and then attack, the Corrupted Myrmidon is then taking those stats and doubling or tripling them. So Corrupted Myrmidon, an amazing fit for this board once you have the package set up. Silavaz the Vindictive can be a great fit in this board. It's going to give you 2 casts every turn, which is going to be decent value for this, considering that the whole idea is you want to cast as many spells as possible. Who knows what some of those spells might give you more spells, so definitely a good fit. We're going to look at things like All-Seeing Elder. Do you have some nice big statted minions? Just put them on the right and left and let that All-Seeing Elder take advantage of those stats. The only thing I have to say about this minion that I don't love is the positioning has to get a little wacky. You have to put your highest attack, or at least a very high attack minion on the left. Then you have to have your highest or at least a very high health minion all the way on the right. So it might make the positioning a little weird, but that makes putting down a 1/1 that suddenly gets to be the biggest attack in health a really good fit with Naga, because you can get really big stats on that end. So he definitely can be a good fit with this board. And finally, I would say Fauna Whisperer is a really good fit on this board. Yeah, you might not need to keep this one permanently. It's only going to cast once a turn because you're probably not running a Drakari on this board. But the fact that it's just another spell being thrown on this board, if anything, means it's a good minion to finish your turn with. Just because it's a Naga, it's going to throw a ton of health on your minions. Then hopefully you have that Wraith, and all of a sudden all that health turns into attack also. Makes Fauna Whisper a nice fit, even if it's just a cycle. Normally here, I'd cover the quest rewards and tell you which one will make this board run a little better, but none of them really stand out to me 100%. There are so many of them that kind of work or work decently depending on which form your board takes. But where you've already seen there's so many minions that can be on this board and so many different types of things you're going for, I feel like most of the specific ones I would tell you to take would be based around spell buffing, but you don't really do a lot of tavern spells with this. This is mostly spellcraft. Thus, I don't feel like you're getting the biggest value specifically buffing that stuff because you're probably not going to do a lot of it. You might have a Fauna Whisperer, but you're not going to go heavy into the Fauna Whisperer thing. That's kind of its own build. That's another thing we can go over later. So I don't really feel the need for any of those. There are tons of different wards that would do a really good job at this. So really, just find one that fits. Once again, you shouldn't be considering which quest reward you're getting when you decide to play this build, because you already should have picked it long before you get to the stage where you know you're playing this. Now, when it comes to the heroes who really lock this build down, well, once again, every hero can kind of do it. Some obviously are better than others. In my mind, probably the best one is just Queen Ashara. And that simple reason is Ashara is going to give you discovery of Nagas, which means you're more likely to get the ones you need in a timely manner. The only problem is it doesn't work until you have 30 attack on your board, which might take a little bit to get going, but basically once you pick Ashara, you know you're kind of leaning into Naga whether you want to or not, because, well, you picked Ashara, that's kind of the whole point of her hero power. If you don't play Naga, you don't really have a hero power other than getting a minion every turn for 1 gold, which can be good with some spellcraft, but overall doesn't really feel great. There's better heroes you could have taken if you weren't thinking, I'm going to play Naga. But sometimes it just works that way. But that's it. That's the build. That's how we make this Naga build work. We cast a lot of spells, and basically your board gets incredibly big. There's not a whole lot to it. It's cycle a lot of spells, win. That's all there is. There's some counterplays, there's some technical stuff you can do depending what your opponent's doing, but realistically, that's just normal ways of playing the game. This is the build itself. What do you think? Do you think there's something I missed that fits in this build well? Other than me sticking out of the Fauna Whisperer build, I really couldn't think of anything else this particular build needed. It was a nice, quick, simple one that doesn't have a lot to it, but you might not be familiar with all the pieces and parts, how to put it together, and that's why we did this here. Thanks for watching. I hope you had a good time. Please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. It helps the channel grow, keeps me motivated. It's a win-win. You learn new stuff, I keep growing. I'm happy. Thanks for watching all. I hope you had a good one. I'll see you in the Battlegrounds. Until then, later.